So welcome everybody. My name is Jeffrey Van Dyke, and this is the second Spirit-Led Leadership event. I've been doing these events for a little while now, and a little while ago I got the message to reshape and reframe the
let's kick off.
Intent of the event.
Yeah.
Is that, do we have feedback? We have a ghost in the microphone? All right. And could you shut that door for me? Thank you. So we are at the Hall Center in Santa Monica, California. This is Dr. Prudence Hall, our host. And yes, so let me just say a few things about the Hall Center and my relationship to the Hall Center and them to me. And then I'll share a little bit about what we're going to do tonight and go from there. The Hall Center is a home for regenerative medicine. And Dr. Hall, Prudence, is one of the top regenerative medicine specialists in the world. So bioidentical hormone replacement therapies, really bringing people back to life. And I've been a patient of Prudence for a while, and I can tell you it makes a massive, massive difference. And the place where we really fit in is we both have a calling to help reshape this world. And we can't do it if we aren't fully alive, if we don't have the vitality to step forward into the world and bring our gifts to the world. And so while people come to the Hall Center, sometimes because they're lacking energy or not able to sleep or not really fully functioning in their life, that's also sometimes a time when people ask, why am I on earth? What is my bigger purpose? What is the path for me moving forward? And this lecture series is part of giving people a space to ask those questions and hopefully get some answers. So that said, in terms of where we're heading in our world and this calling that so many people are getting around the world, this little tap on the shoulder is saying, there's something more for you to be up to. There's something more for you to be doing. And frankly, it's a little difficult to discern what that is and to translate that into something that's actionable and meaningful in the world. And my work in the world is to help people do that, to take this sense that there's something more and translate it into something really tangible and meaningful that makes a difference in their life and makes a difference in this world. Tonight, the message I got about the conversation, and that's really how I think of these particular events as a conversation, is around money and spirituality. And this piece of when we do receive a calling and it feels like a spiritual calling, how do we translate that into something that makes money and perhaps makes a lot of money, right? We love that. While staying true to the calling. Right? While staying true to what that original intent was, that original tap on the shoulder or that ongoing tap on the shoulder. And that's really what we're going to be looking at tonight. In terms of how I come into these events, unlike places where I do keynote talks or speeches for large groups, this to me is more of a salon where I just show up and listen and do my best to translate what's coming through in real time for us. And we have people here live in person in LA, and we also have lots of people online streaming. So hello, live streamers. Thank you for joining us. Whether you're here live right now or watching the recording in the future, it means a lot to me to be able to have this relationship and to continue to be in this dialogue globally, even though we have a local hub here in LA. And if you are in LA sometime, we do these the third Thursday of every month, so be sure to join us in person sometime in the future. Where do we have people from, Deanna? Do we have people saying hello from different places?
We do. We have people saying hello from before.
Actually, let's have you keep the microphone for a little while. There we go. You can just turn it on and off with that button.
We have people saying hello from New York and Chicago and Ohio and Seattle so far.
Right. Good, 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 good.
Our international guests are a little shy.
Well, I know in Europe it's the middle of the night, so a lot of you are watching later on, and maybe if you're an Aussie or a Kiwi, you're here with us. So with that, I always like to start with an invocation for us to really get in the space together. What I know is that this work is co-created. I happen to be a mouthpiece for it in this particular venue, but it's co-created. So as we begin here, I just know that this time is purposeful and meaningful and valuable. I know that what comes through tonight is necessary, that it's pertinent, that it's useful in our lives and in our businesses. I know that there will be an expansion of thought, an expansion of awareness of what's possible for us in our lives and through our leadership. I know that there's many forces at work supporting us here and now and supporting this transition in our world and in our global consciousness. And I call forth that support to uplift us, to raise the vibration of our collective intent and allow us to be focused in where we are pointed, to be focused in what's emerging, to be focused in what we are being called to do and how we are being called to do it. I ask to be a conduit and a hollow bone for these messages to flow through. And I also ask for a collective consciousness here between us all to be the consciousness that emerges and that pulls through whatever information we collectively need. Lastly, I just lay claim and ask for grace. So often when we move through our lives, we move at a clipped pace. So much to do. Sometimes it feels like burdens on our shoulders. And I know that there is always grace available at every moment. And so I ask for and call forth that to be the container that holds us, from which we move forward into the world. And so it is. There's a lot of ways that when we get a calling about something, we go off course. And so when we're talking about spirituality and money, through our businesses, through our calling, what we're talking about is marrying the truth of what we're being called to do. And they're being very clear right now, the full truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, right? Not 90%, not 75% the way there, not like I got it, but I'm going to kind of do it my way, right? The full truth. And that when we have the full truth, and we bring that and marry it into our businesses and into our leadership and how we're moving through life, that's when the image I'm getting is reverberation. That's when there's a reverberation in our leadership and there's a reverberation out into the world through what we do in the world. And there's a lot of places as we step out where we go off course. And some of that's just second guessing it, right? Wondering, is what I'm getting really true? Am I interpreting it correctly? Because if I'm not, gosh, I don't know if I should do that thing. Will it work out or not? And then there's the place where we know we're interpreting it correctly, and it freaks us out, right? And that's usually the bigger place where we go off course, where something comes in, and it's like, oh, I'll do anything but that, right? I will do anything but that. And And that's usually the place where if we answer it, the greatest success will come. Because when we get that and we sideline it, there will be some examples here soon. When we get it and we sideline it, what we do is we water it down. And therefore, it has no energy. It's like flabby. There's not reverberation in the world. And as a result, the world doesn't respond. Some time ago, I kept getting this message from my spiritual guidance: Jeffrey, you are here to make power holy. You are here to make power holy. And I was like, great, off to make power holy, right? And at some point, I just stopped and I was like, oh, okay, so what's holy power? Because I had a great mentor, Mr. Tim Kelly, who always taught me to define anything I teach about before I teach about it. Makes sense? So I was like, great, give me the definition for holy power. And the definition that came through was holy power is the complete expression of divine truth in real time without hesitation, manipulation, or control. The complete expression of divine truth in real time without hesitation, manipulation, or control. And that's a tall order. That's a tall order. And that's both in what we say and what we do and how we move forward. And actually, I was talking with Tim not long ago, and we were talking about power. He does a lot of work with leaders around power. He said, interesting, underneath that definition, this old thing we used to always say, that absolute power corrupts absolutely, is absolutely wrong. That under that definition, anything but absolute power is what corrupts. Right? That when we are fully attuned to what wants to move through us, how it wants to move through us, in the way and the manner and the timing it wants to move through us, without going like, so hesitation, manipulation, control, right? Hesitation is like, oh, I'm not sure I'm ready for that, right? I'm gonna put the brakes on, I'm gonna hesitate, I'm gonna pause, I'm not so sure, I gotta test things out, let me put my foot in the water and test the temperature first. Or hesitation, manipulation, which is, I got something that's really powerful and it's rocking my world, and I'm freaked out to say it how it is, so I'm going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to reframe it so that it's acceptable to people, right? I'm going to make it, which is different than marketing. So I'm a marketer, and there is something about how do you need to say it so that people can hear it, right? So I'm not talking about that. We'll get to that. Maybe. But where we manipulate it because we don't feel safe standing in the full truth of what wants to emerge, which is usually about, oh crap, we're going to get rejected, we're going to get ostracized, somebody's not going to like it, there's going to be anger coming at us and we don't want to engage in conflict, so we'll manipulate it so that that doesn't happen. Or we just straight up control it. Nope. I'm going to lock it down. I'm not going to do any of it. And that's where, that's really where we dig in our heels and just stagnate. So what does this have to do with spirituality and money? What I know is that this universe works on energetics, that everything is vibration and frequency. I'm a trained singer, sung all around the world. And there's something amazing that happens when music is really dialed in, really tuned in. And that is you get something called overtones. You get this reverberation, you get overtones. So you can sing a root, a third, a fifth, and an octave. You just have 4 basic notes, well, 3 notes in an octave. But when they're absolutely locked in, you get all these notes that come above it, right? You get the 16th and the 32nd and the 64th. Nobody's singing them, but you hear them. It's magic. It's amazing, right? And I believe the same thing happens when we really lock into what we're meant to be doing and do it in the manner in which we're meant to do it. And that's when the world responds. That's when the world says, oh my God, there's something really unique. There's something really creative there. There's something different happening there. And in this marketplace, which is incredibly saturated in almost any business arena you're in, you need to stand out. Most people try to stand out using commodity to stand out. Meaning, because they're generic, they end up having to compete on price. They end up having to compete on how things are delivered. They end up having to compete on commodities, basically, because there's a plethora of the same thing around in the world. Now, the truth is there's not, if we really understood what we were uniquely designed to do, and we're doing that. But when we're not doing that, we commoditize ourselves, and that's when we struggle as a business owner to make money or to grow to the next level of innovation and leadership in the marketplace. The other thing they want me to talk a little bit about is timing. One of the things I notice is that there's always plenty. There's always everything you need in every moment if you're aware of it, if you can see it. I look at trees, right? In Southern California, we have lots of fruit trees. So in the backyard of my house, there's an orange tree, and next door there's an avocado tree, right? And there's all these flowers and plants, and they just thrive. We don't really do much for them. They have sun, they have some water, right? And they thrive, and we get fruit. And what's amazing is like the fruit of the avocado tree and the orange tree are different, even though they're both trees and both planted in the same geographic location. That kind of amazes me if you think about it, right? This little difference in the seed of what creates them and massively different fruit that they bear. I think of us as the same way, right? Us as individuals, that we have this different calling, a different seed that produces different fruit in the world. And we spend a lot of time trying to homogenize ourselves so that we're acceptable and people like us. But the truth is that we are radically different person to person to person. Okay, so now we're going to go into money. And I have no idea where we're going here. I'm just speaking to whatever wants to be spoken to. Oh, okay. So, because of our collective wounding, especially post the industrial era, and I come from the Midwest where this is extra concentrated, there's something we have called a hard work ethic. And it's ripe. I used to work at Microsoft, right? Crazy, I never, even when I was there, I was like, how did I end up at Microsoft? But there's always this underlying thing of like, who gets to the office earliest? Doesn't matter who works the hardest or who gets the best results or who stays the latest. But man, there was always those early birds who were smug about, oh, I've been here since 7, right? And it comes from that hard work ethic of, I'm better if I work harder. Now, we moved from an industrial economy to a technological economy to what I might call a creative or a spiritual economy. And in the creative or spiritual economy, the way the economy works is that we bring our innate giftedness to the world in the way it's designed to be brought. I don't even know if that's correct English, but and underneath the surface, it feels really weird. If you're just doing what you're naturally designed to do in the way you're designed to do it, like I'm an orange tree and I'm just growing in Southern California and making oranges, right? Like, it's like you're doing nothing, right? It's like you're doing nothing at all. We talk a lot about like when you're in your genius zone, it feels like you're not working a day of your life. And while on some like little bumper stickers that sounds nice, in reality, we have a collective agreement to work hard, and actually the only way we work hard is when we work against our nature. Here's what I mean. Some people are really gifted at being strategists, right? They're really gifted at seeing the way forward in the marketplace, carving that path and executing. Some people are really good at being creative visionaries, at thinking outside of the box, at dreaming up new ways of doing things in the world. Some people are really gifted at being nurturers, at creating harmony in situations and in people's lives. Some people are really gifted at being administrators, maintaining things and keeping them going. And we need all of those giftednesses. That actually relates to the 4 quadrants of the neocortex and the 4 quadrants of our brain, and that each quadrant has a giftedness. I could go there, that's a different training. However, when we're in our innate design, when we're doing what we're designed to do, it's very easy. It's very effortless. So for example, my brain lead is a front right brain lead. It's big picture, it's creative, it thinks outside of the box. And I do best when I'm just in the world creating all the time and doing very little administration, doing some executing and some nurturing. So when I'm doing that, life feels really easy, right? And it almost feels awkward to have money flow in and everything thrive when I'm just doing something that like, I don't even care if I get paid for on some level, right? I could do it any day of the week. And so there's a consciousness we have that says when it's that easy, we don't deserve to thrive financially. And I see so many people working against their design, not getting the support they need in their lives. And this is all the way up and down the scale of business size and leadership, from the individual solopreneur to a senior executive at a Fortune 500 company. In fact, even how we create job descriptions is based on function, not on genius. Most job descriptions actually have multiple genius zones clumped in together, which means that somebody's only going to be in their genius zone a part of the time in their job. So there's a couple things that have to happen for us to have this relationship between money and our calling, money and our genius, money and our spirituality aligned. Oh, I'm supposed to teach this thing that I've had for like a year and a half, and I've never taught it. I'm really excited. So, about a year and a half ago, I got this download about what it takes to answer our calling. And it made so much sense to me. And I could see that when somebody struggles, it's because at least one of these 4 elements isn't in place. So, and you can think about these stacked on top of each other. I think of them kind of like a V. Stacked on top of each other, the result of which is you answering your calling and doing it easily and effortlessly. So here it is. At the base is your essence. Everything is essence. Everything is essence. It's the divine spark that you are. And I don't care what job you have, how you do it, the people we respond to most are the people that have that divine spark really present, where we can see it, where you're in their presence and you're just like, oh my God, they're amazing. And we've all been around those people, right, where there's just something magical about them because there's so much of their life force, that divine spark, available in the interaction with whomever they're in front of. And a lot of the work we do around our wounding and personal development work in this model would be for the purpose of shining our light. of not having all these places where we hide out, where we say, ooh, I can't show people that about myself. Ooh, if they only knew this about me, they certainly wouldn't like me, right? And so we have all these different places where we hide who we are. But the more we grow and the more we develop, the more our essence is available to freely shine. So that's the base. And on top of that is design. How are you designed? What's your innate giftedness? There's a lot of different mechanisms and tools that we have available to find out what our design is. Sometimes we just trip upon it because we notice we're really good on something and follow it, for those of us that are lucky enough to just do that. Sometimes we need help, right? And we might take assessments like the DISC assessment or Myers-Briggs or StrengthsFinder, or we might go a little bit more esoteric and go into astrology or numerology or hand analysis like Pamela does to understand what is our innate design. What's our giftedness, right? When Pamela read my hands say I'm meant to be a innovative, visionary leader of leaders, thinking outside of the box, creating things ahead of my time, right? And that the underlying master path for me is around courage and instinct, strength, power. And that feels really true to me. I also know I'm a front-right brain lead, which means that I do big picture thinking, that I think outside of the box, that I put things together in ways that most people would never think that they go together. I also know that because my brain lead is front-right, that the back left, which is about maintenance and routine of life, is something that I have no business doing really, right? That's not my genius. And if I function there, I'm slowly killing myself, right? And I'm sure Prudence, Dr. Hall, could tell you about adrenal fatigue and thyroid issues because people are functioning against their design, right? So we have this innate essence at the root, which flows through our design. So that's the second one. The third one is our calling. What are we meant to do with that design? What's the impact we're meant to have in the world with our essence through our design? Right? Who are we meant to serve? How are we meant to serve them? What's the impact we're meant to make on them? At a grand scale, what's our life's mission? What's the impact we're meant to have on this world? That's the calling. And then the fourth one on top of that is the model, which is, you can think about it in business as a business model. What's the vehicle, what's the mechanism by which we'll bring that calling to the world, right? And so if you have your essence flowing through your design in service to your calling, actualized by a business model that's absolutely congruent with it, that's when your calling takes off in the world, right? And if you find anybody that's struggling to answer their calling, I would suggest that at least one, if not multiple, of those four elements are need a little support, a little off. Either they have their essence available and you see their bright light and they know their design and they know their calling, they have no business model, right? They have no way to mechanize it and bring it to the world. Or somebody that has an awesome business model, super strategic. They understand their mission and calling in the world. They even understand their design, but they've never really dealt with their wounding. They've never really dealt with the underlying ways in which they hide out from the world. And so it feels like, that's very impressive, but who are you? Why are you here? Why don't I have a sense of connection with you? Oh, because I'm not seeing you, right? Or some variation thereof. They have their essence and they know their calling, but they don't know their design. I see a lot of that as well. Business owners that are clear about what they're meant to be doing in the world, and they have a business model maybe, and their essence is available and online. But what they're doing as business owners, they have no business doing. It's like if I were a bookkeeper for my business, not only would my books be a mess, but I'd be killing myself slowly every time I engage in doing my own bookkeeping, right? One of the things that I've loved over the last year is starting to get a team together that supports my design, so that they can do their design and I can do mine. Noah, who's here, runs the marketing for my company. He's brilliant, and he loves internet marketing. And it drives me a little crazy. I know it's necessary. I'm really glad it exists in the world. I can connect with tribe members all around the globe. But man, if you ask me to look at click-through rates, right, and you ask me to sharpen the pixel of our marketing campaign in Facebook, no, just won't happen. Just won't happen, right? And if I tried, I'd be like, like just screwing myself over trying to do it. And these are the ways that we sabotage our success. And we either sabotage it financially, or we sabotage it by killing ourselves slowly, or both. Because if we're not doing our design, we're not going to have nearly as much success. So we're not going to bring in finances. If we're not doing a design, we're going to burn ourselves out. And if we're not doing our design, we're still playing the game of being Lone Rangers. We're still playing the game of doing it all ourselves. And really, the reason we have a unique design and aren't designed to do everything is because we're designed to connect. We're designed to be in support of one another. We're designed to weave tapestries together that support us all thriving in different ways. And we often miss that point when we are busy trying to do our thing our way and not connecting with the people that need us most. Good. So I'm supposed to ask if there's any questions about that, and then there's another piece, and then we'll do some coaching. So any questions on that, either online, in the room? You have the microphone? Awesome.
So you are talking about calling and design as being separate things. And in this very last round of conversation, you kept talking about if we're not doing our design, not doing our design, not doing our design. So my question is in this model, is it required that the essence is necessary before the design?
No,
they don't have to build on each other. They're just co-created.
It's not sequential in terms, or linear, right? You know this better than anybody, right? How we grow and how do we develop and what we learn. It's not sequential and it's not linear. The model is that what flows through what. So essence flowing through design, which is in service to the calling, which is activated and actualized by a business model, which moves into a full expression of calling in the world.
So someone knew their calling and they were really clear about their calling. It sounds like what you're saying from this, and I know we've had conversations about this, but it sounds like what you're saying from this is that to really have it all work, then connecting with their design and their essence would be necessary for the calling to be really clear and for them to be very present in the world with it in order to even have a business model, for example.
Yeah.
Or they could have a business model, but if they're missing one of the other things, that's like, it's, so what I'm feeling is if one of these things is kind of gray,
Not online.
missing, soft,
Right.
not very energized, then that's the piece that could be expanded and developed in order to have this really work.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, you can all look in, like, let's do it right now. Just look in your own businesses or in your leadership and who your leadership team is around you if you're an executive, and ask yourself, do I have my essence really available? Is my heart present in what I do? And can people feel it and do they respond to it? That's number one. Number two, do I know what I'm really good at? What comes naturally and easily to me? And is my business and my leadership structured in such a way that at least 50% of my time, if not more, is squarely in that genius zone and doing nothing else? Is at least 50% of your time in your business spent doing those activities? Then you can look and see, how clear am I about why I'm on earth? Do I know what my calling is? Do I know what my mission is? Do I know what my purpose is each day I show up to work and show up to my business? And is everything I'm doing, to a greater and greater extent, a reflection of that calling and of that mission? And is my business model aligned with that calling and mission? Does it help that mission expand in the world? You know, I don't know if I can talk about you expanding in the world. Can I? So one of the things Prudence is talking about is where she will grow another center. She's talking about perhaps London as the next home base for the Hall Center. Keeping this, obviously, and expanding to London because she has a lot of European clients that fly to LA for her work. So that would provide a European hub, right? So, and in order to do that, of course, she will have to have a business that is already thriving, a business model that's already functioning here, systems and processes that are already in place so that she can grow, right? And replicate that in another city, right? So do I have a business model that allows the expansion of my calling to continue to occur in the world? So you can just do a little check right now of those 4 areas and then ask yourself, where could I use some strengthening? Where maybe I'm a little fuzzy about the calling. Okay, I need to get some support there. Maybe I don't really know what my giftedness is in terms of my design. What am I meant to be doing in terms of my daily function as a business owner? And what shouldn't I be doing as a business owner? What don't I like? What kind of kills me softly or slowly? That's a song, right? What kind of kills me slowly? So, I need to get clear about my design, right? I think about design, by the way, this way. I'm a big car freak. I love automobiles. I grew up in Michigan. I think it was just in the water, right? But if you think about, like, I used to live in San Francisco, and so if you were on Highway 1, what kind of vehicle would you want? Well, you'd want a little roadster, right? Like a little BMW Roadster, or even a little Mazda Miata. A friend of mine used to have one of those, and it just whipped around those twists and turns. Would you want a honking SUV on those twists and turns? No way. It'd be awful, or at least super boring. But what would you want to go skiing in Tahoe? You'd want the 4-wheel drive SUV, right? You wouldn't want the little Roadster, right? It'd be awful. So it's like, what's the design? And you want to use it for the design it's meant for. You want to use the Roadster on Highway 1, and you want to use the SUV to go to Tahoe. And so too, each one of us has a design, right? And something we're designed for. And when we're doing that design, it works beautifully and flawlessly. So you might look and say, do I know what my design is? And if not, getting some support there. Or lastly, looking and seeing, do I feel safe showing who I am in the world? Do I feel safe really bearing myself wherever I go, right? To have a strong spine and an open heart. Or do I feel like, oh no, I gotta put on the face for people, right? Or are there parts where, like, oh God, if somebody saw that about me, it would mortify me? Or is it just that when certain people are in your presence, you just get triggered every time? And you know, gosh, there's something for you to deal with there, but you just haven't, right? So you can look at any one of those 4 areas and go, what do I need to attend to so that my business really thrives? I know for me, over the last year, it's been the business and the business model, right? I've been in business doing this. I quit Microsoft in 2006, so I've been doing this for a decade. And I have been very fortunate to be successful at what I do. And over the last year, it was like, okay, it's time to grow to the next level. And to do that, I needed to put more systems and structures in place and to use a different model for the growth of my business. And that's actually where my collaboration with Noah came in. Because what he does is what I needed to build into the business. You know, and so for me, like, oh, I felt really great about who I was. Better than I ever had in my life. So the essence stuff working, right? The design. I've learned a lot about my giftedness, whether it's from hand analysis or human design or the DISC assessment or looking at brain leads. I do all these different ways to look at my design. And I'm pretty clear about what I'm gifted at and what I have no business doing. My calling. I'm really clear about why I'm on this planet and what I'm meant to be doing in the world. And so for me, it was looking at the business model and going to the next level of growth and expanding and maturing my business model. And as you do that, that's when the world responds, right? That's when the world says, oh, you're here and you're not holding back on us, right? When all those things are in place and it's out into the world, it's like we can feel that the full expression is available. And that's what people want. And it doesn't feel like somebody's holding out, right? No, not quite ready to bring that out into the world. Not going to show you that, right? And I can tell you, like, financially, I will double what I did. I had a very good year last year, and I will double that in the first 6 months of this year because of the maturing of the business model. At least double it. We'll see. I could hear Noah. He's like, no, dude, we're going to crush it. So that's the piece. So there's one more piece I need to talk about related to money. And it's interesting. Like, I anticipated talking a lot more about money tonight. I had no idea that bringing this model out was going to come out. And here's why they're telling me it was this and not just talking about our resistance to money and whatnot. For one, they say, y'all know about a lot of your crap about money, right? And knowing more about it isn't going to do it, right? So first of all, they're saying you didn't need to come out and talk more about people's crap about money and the resistance to it and blah, blah, blah. What you did need to say, and by the way, when I get these weird head twitches, that's when I'm getting downloads. So if you're like, what's going on with his neck? My friends call it my spiritual Tourette's. So it is the way in which we choke off the ability for the world to respond. And that's what these 4 pieces are, is if you think about water, water finds the way forward with the least resistance. It'll just find its path forward. Whatever the path of least resistance is, that's the path water will take. But there are times when we dam water up, where we circumvent it and put it this way and that, and it has to do a whole lot of rigmarole to get somewhere. And if you think about our genius being expressed in the world and our calling being expressed in the world, we do a lot of that as human beings. Put a lot of roadblocks in place. We do this instead of this. And these 4 pillars, these 4 things that relate to one another, those are the arenas in which we choke it off, in which we circumvent it, in which we hold it back. Those are the arenas. And when we do that, the result is the money dwindles. It's not as great as it could be. It doesn't expand in massive ways. Right? So they're also saying, like, it's time for us to see money as a byproduct. To really, 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 really know money is a byproduct, right? It's the result of something. And I would suggest, at its highest form, it's the result of these four things lining up and being expressed in the world. And so if you're struggling with money, look, here's a simple model to look and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Where do I need to get honest with myself about where I need some support? That's really all this is. Good. I'm supposed to bring back in the hard work for a moment, and then we'll do some coaching on stage. When these four things are lined up, it's beautiful. It just works. Life works, your business works, your leadership works. It's not hard. And okay, this is this last piece. Oof. I don't really want to say this, but I will. When I started these events, I was always told that this is supposed to be a local gathering, a local hub for a global happening, and that it was meant to be very organic, and that it would grow and expand on its own over time. And that I was supposed to just show up and really be a channel. That unlike keynotes and stuff where I'm prepared and I have the talk I give and whatnot, that this was not that. This was showing up and being a vessel for something to emerge. And the message that came with it, and this is the part that I don't want to say, the message that came with it, as I said, Jeffrey, you've got to get used to people paying to be in your presence. You've got to get used to people investing to be in your presence. Because yeah, you have a cool system with tribal marketing and wounds and marketing and all the stuff I've developed, all that great. But what really transforms people isn't all my nifty stuff. It's my presence. And Clifford's like, that's why I'm here. And that's why I said when I started this piece about this model that it's all about essence. That it's all about, all the other things are things we align so that the essence just flows right up and out. Right? So that it doesn't have to work so hard to get up that when it comes out, it's like, bleh. Right? Because that's what's happening for a lot of people. Like, and you're like, oh, you're nice, but I'm not very interested in you, right? I'm not compelled by you or any of that. But when all that stuff's lined up and our essence can just flow freely, that's when we have the greatest impact on the world. That's where we cause the most transformation. And man, when I got that message, it was humbling. Because my ego wanted to say, no. The reason that there's value is because all the stuff I do, right? All the cool, nifty things I've developed, my products and my programs and the ways that I serve people, that's the value. No, that's the vehicle, not the value. That's the vehicle for the expression of my essence in the world. And the same thing is true for each of you. That it's not about what you do. It's not about the vehicle. It's about the value that pours forth, that flows through into the world when your essence is shining through that vehicle. And that's why I call this a spiritual economy, right? That more and more we're being called, especially those of us that feel like we're on the forefront of what's evolving in this world, we're being called to lead with our essence. If I look at the great change agents in this world, historically, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, man, they led with essence. You felt them. And if you listen to I Have a Dream today, you still feel the hand, the imprint, the fingerprint of his essence in those words. Even if you're not listening to him in a recording, even if I just say, I have a dream today, you hear his voice. You don't hear mine. And you feel his essence that were transmitted through those words. That's the value, not to the vehicle, not the words themselves, not that he stood on stage and orated. If he were to recite some other person's words that he didn't care about, it wouldn't have that impact. It had that reverberation because so much of his essence was embedded in those words, right? And that's what we want to do as leaders. And that's usually what scares us most. That's when we start going, oh my gosh, people have been burned at the stake for that. They've been taken out for that, right? They've been locked up. They've been ostracized. They've been ridiculed. They've been written about in the papers. They've been thrown under the bus. That's what we're most scared of, because that's also what's most precious to us. And that's why on our leadership journey, our role, our job, is to build the capacity to be strong and powerful and have a heart that can transmit that essence. You know, I think about being taken out, and I think, like, we're all dying. I don't know when I'm going to die. You know, it might be old age, it might be a bullet. I've just kind of gotten past the point where that seems to be an issue for me. Now, I don't know, maybe in another situation that might be different, but where I sit here, I'm more committed to saying yes. I'm more committed to bringing my work out into the world, and they corrected me. My voice, my essence, my imprint. And that's why I had to even change the name of these events to Spirit-Led Leadership. It was it was a little I was trepidatious about it, right? But I also know that my role is to be an example. To say, yep, we can marry these things. We can marry spirituality and leadership. We can put them right together. Good. Okay, that's enough of the lecture. So let's check in with the live streamers and see what you've been cooking up over there.
They don't have any questions. They agree that business model seems to be a big stumbling block.
Uh-huh.
Number 4.
Uh-huh.
Especially for people who are interested in spirit.
Yep.
And I wanted to ask if you had anything to say about intimacy, because it seems to me that when you're speaking about the essence piece,
Yeah.
and that essence shining through the word that was coming to me was intimacy, and the requirement is that the messenger is now intimate, not with the message, but intimate with their own essence.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very vulnerable place to be.
Yeah.
Forget speaking from that place. It's a vulnerable place for you to just be.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. So I'll just add this, and then I think we'll continue that question into a whole nother evening. But I know that the things I'm meant to be addressing underneath the surface, on the surface, I address business. Under the surface, it's all about sex and money. It is. It's all about sex and money because that's how we express power in the world. And so there's a relationship between power and intimacy. and there's a dance between them. They're almost like kissing cousins. And here's what I mean by that. In my experience, to be intimate with you, I feel very intimate with you tonight. I need to have a firm sense of power inside of myself. I'll give you a story. Years ago, I had a business partner that was going through a really tough time. And she'd come over to my house to work. And sometimes she was just neurotic. And sometimes she was sobbing. And she was in all these different states. And I was just getting pissed. And I was just throwing her under the bus in my own head without saying anything, because I didn't have as good of communication skills as I hopefully do now. And when I did a piece of inner work with myself, I dialogued with this part of me that was so pissed. Right? It's part of my processes is dialoguing with certain parts of my subconscious. And I expected this part to just rail on my business partner. And instead, this part of me was just like, oh, They're like, she's just a freight train being a freight train. You're the one laying on the tracks, right? And I was like, oh, I did not see that one coming, right? And it really, like, I had to take ownership of that and say, like, okay, you know what? It's not okay for me that you come into my house to work in all these different emotional states. I can't handle it. So I need you to, if you need to sit on my front stoop and meditate for 15 minutes before you knock my door, then do that. Because I need to be able to work with you. I need to be able to come in and work. And that was a very vulnerable thing to say on some level, because of course, like, what's she gonna say and is it gonna blow up in my face? But it also built this strength and this capacity inside of myself. That's just one little example, right? Where I could be vulnerable and honest. That's a very intimate thing to say. Say, I had to say to her, I'm filled with anxiety lately every time you come over. I don't know what I'm going to encounter when I open up the door. It scares me. Right? And here's what I need. So there is this relationship between power and intimacy that go hand in hand. And the reason it's this sex and money thing underneath with the power and intimacy is because that's where the power exchange lies, right? Energy exchange. And everything around power and intimacy is around energy exchange. And most of what happens around energy exchange is that we don't feel we have the right to have boundaries. We don't feel like we have the right to have boundaries. And especially, there's a friend of mine that keynotes that speaks a lot around sexuality and women. And one of the things I love that she talks about is, as women, we're told that we give it away. Someone can take your virginity, right? And the men, we go and get it, right? And so there's this relationship where especially women have been taught that, like, their sexuality isn't theirs. And that's just an expression of power. It's an expression of creativity, an expression of life force. And so there's a whole lot. I mean, this is like a whole, like I said, a whole nother night. There's a lot in there around not feeling, okay, there's two things. One is not feeling like we can set boundaries such that we don't feel safe in any interaction, bringing our essence to the world. And if somebody starts to cross the boundaries, we can say no. And we can draw lines, right? So that's one thing. There's a deeper thing, though, which is where we don't belong to ourselves. It's the parts of ourselves we haven't yet integrated. The parts of ourselves we've kind of sent to Siberia, we've buried, we don't like to look at. Parts of ourselves we don't like, and most of all, the parts of ourselves we reject. One of the things I'm looking at right now in my own process is any rejected selves I have around absolute expression of power, wielding it with authority and without apology, right? And so what are the stories I have about that? What are the experiences I've had around either being hurt by others or hurting others myself and abusing power, right? And what I know is that we cannot trust that which we're out of relationship with. We can't trust what we don't have a relationship with, right? We trust, if you just think about human beings, we trust the people we have deep relationships with. We understand them, they start to have predictable behavior. If they're in your life, hopefully there's some resonance in terms of values that you share in common. And when that happens, that's when we trust people. The same thing is true in our own psyches. What's the parts of ourselves that we're out of relationship with? And to answer that, we just say, what are the parts of ourselves we've rejected? That goes back to our core wounds. The more we integrate those aspects of ourselves, the more we trust ourselves, the freer we are to move into the world and share our essence without fear that something's going to happen to us or that we're going to do something unsavory ourselves when we start to move into with power and sharing intimacy. So that wasn't the cleanest answer I have in the world, but and maybe we'll unpack that a bit as we work with somebody on stage. In fact, we'll probably work with you on stage tonight. Any questions about any of that before we go on to stage? And Dina, remind me, next time I'll give you your own mic.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It'll be good.
This is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Your story about the woman who came to your house and she was all over the place,
Yeah.
does that fall into the category of design?
That's a great question. Say more about the question.
Okay. Because that's the only one I'm having a problem kind of putting my finger on, and it seems like it involves a little bit.
I would put that into essence, actually.
Okay, so it was her essence that wasn't meshing with your essence.
What I'd say is she was in her wounding. Her wounding was being expressed in a big way.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And she was in reaction to the wounding.
Yeah.
She, without divulging too much, she had changed her life dramatically and just had a lot of upheaval. And yeah, it might also have to do with design in that if she's not functioning according to her design, it can make your life harried and crazy, right? So that's one way to look at it. That if you're not functioning according to your design, you might be working super hard and be overwhelmed and have all these things going on and So that's one way to look at it.
And it didn't work well with your design,
Um,
or was that your essence?
It felt like it was threatening my essence.
Okay.
It felt unsafe. It wasn't so much that I couldn't do my design because once we were both on the same page and like the times when she was in like a good place, we worked great together, right? The way our relationship worked, like it really spawned my creative juices. So, but when she wasn't present, there was no space for that to happen. So my design couldn't be fluid and working there. Yeah. But I would look at it a bit more around, she had internal stuff that was stimulated at that time. Okay. And she dealt with it. Yeah. And then she got more centered and more present. And then she was able to come in and then we could both function and have our design work. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
That's
Thank
a great
you.
question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Clifford. We got a microphone. Pamela, could you? Thank you.
I was fascinated with your model, and something you did very early on in the model was do this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what it did for me was I saw the four stacks. I saw the bottom as the
Yes.
kindling of the fire.
Yeah.
That the bottom one
Fueled the next
fueled
one.
the second one, that fueled the calling, that fueled the business model, and it came out as a roaring energy.
That's right. I love that.
That's what I saw.
Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. Yeah. Good. Stuff from live streamers? Cool.
They're really moved by the conversation about visibility
Uh-huh.
in your essence
Uh-huh.
and talking about the wounding and the fears about being visible
Yeah.
in their essence. But it's really hitting home also rejecting power by rejecting these parts of self, hiding them, not being intimate with them, not being in relationship with them. That is also hitting home.
Awesome, cool. And by the way, just for fun, I'll toss this in the mix. It's fascinating to look at our current political landscape because we are collectively outsourcing our internal process to political candidates, right? We have Trump on one side, which a lot of people that would resonate with me are probably like, Trump, bad guy. And then we have Bernie Sanders, which is really Donald Trump in reverse. Two sides of one coin. It's the same energetic, actually, that is radically polarized without any integration point that we are owning as a collective. Talk about disowned power. Right? Either we need to be the bully or we need to be the victim that's standing up for the underdog. Right? That is disowned power in our collective psyche. And everything in my work, Pamela pointed this out to me and wanted me to talk a bit more about this, that like so much of my work, everything I do, is about creating, not creating because it's already there. It's about allowing the integration point to come online such that the full expression of any energetic is available to us. That's when we're in our power. That's when we have range as leaders, right? So whether it's victim, victimizer, rich, poor, I don't know why this is coming, fat, skinny, ugly, good looking, people that have celebrity and are seen in the world, and people that are invisible, right? These are all the polarizations we have in our society and in our collective psyche and in us. And the more we do work, the essence work, really, if I were to define what the work on the essence level is about, it's about creating more and more and more of the integration points in different energetic frequencies such that we can inhabit an entire frequency, and that's when our leadership and our power comes online. What happens in our wounding, there's something else I'm bringing, whatever, we're going here. What happens in our wounding is that our wounding cuts us off to 1/2 of an energetic spectrum. So I told you I was a musician, and if you think about a frequency in music, you can see the waveform of music. If you flip a waveform on itself, you have an infinity symbol, you have a figure 8, right? That's an entire frequency of an energetic. I define wounding, I won't go there because I did that another time. But what happens with our wounding is that we get cut off from 1/2. So in a certain area, we're either the victims or the victimizers. If you look at Hitler and the Jews, right? Jews, we're victims, we're victims, we're victims, we're victims. And Hitler and the Germans, we're perpetrators, we're perpetrators, we're perpetrators, we're perpetrators. There was no integration there of that energetic. And so it just escalated and escalated and escalated. If you look at the 1% thing, remind me what that was? The Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street is, we're the 99%, we're the 99%, we're the 99%, we're the 99%. Cannot inhabit the 1%, because that's bad, that's evil. We've called that wrong, which keeps us right here, right? Boom, 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 boom. Can't be that, because we have an identity as these good victims that those bad people have victimized. Man, if there's anything around spirituality and money, that's the conversation, right? That we are so stuck in, we are honored for our gifts. We are honored for this unique thing we want to do in the world. People don't see us. They don't acknowledge us. We're stuck in victim energetic. And we can never swing over to this powerful other side that we call the victimizer, because we have these consciences that say we want to be good people, we want to be kind and loving. We don't want to be that. Those evil, wrong, bad people? I could never be that. So we reject that and stay over here in the I can get by land, right? And I'm talking very generically as a culture, like people that are typically oriented around more personal growth and spirituality. Or they might be making a lot of money but very conflicted about it, oftentimes. Or they make a lot of money and they're very spiritual in their spiritual settings and groups, but when they step into business, they become sharks, right? They're like a split personality. We've seen that as well. Right? There's no integration. There's no place where it's like, I can be powerful without being an asshole. And I can be kind without being a pushover. Whether it comes to money, leadership, influence, whatever it is, it's all the same thing on some level. But that's what we must smooth out collectively, is allowing ourselves to start to look into the lens of what we call the victimizer, the bad one percenters, the powerful people that we don't want to be. When I was at Microsoft, I actually engaged with Donald Trump. He was one of my clients. I used to produce events for him, along with a lot of other leaders in the world. And it's so easy to go, I'm not going to do my work of looking at that. I'll just shoot arrows at a target, right? And I'll go onto Facebook and I'll post about how bad Donald Trump is and how much we hate him. And I'll stay over here and say, oh, we are so good in the Bernie Sanders camp. I'm just playing here, right? And I'm not even talking about who you should vote for, any of that. And I'm not saying one's bad, like none of that. I'm just saying what the collective energetic is. That we just stay over here and we toss arrows. And we stay in this place where, frankly, we can feel a little holier than thou and feel good about ourselves without engaging with our power and our leadership, which is where money flows, which is where power is wielded freely in the world. If you look at the Republicans, they do not apologize for wielding power. Now, I don't believe that they're doing it in a healthy manner right now. I don't. But they don't apologize for it. And even if they go to a contested, I'm just going here, even if they go to a contested primary, I wouldn't be surprised if they just say, screw it, we're not dealing with any of what how many votes who got from what superdelegates. We're just going to put somebody forward that we think will win in a general election and screw the whole primary thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that, because they have no qualms about saying, we're going to do what works. Democrats, apologize. We apologize for having power. We apologize for, we're all often in political discourse, Democrats are on the defensive, if you've not noticed that. They're rarely on the offensive. And that's, in my opinion, just an expression of our collective psyche playing out in this world we call politics. Right? So I'm not even talking about politics itself. I'm talking about our collective psyche being outsourced and played out on this grand canvas called politics. Now, if you can look and see what on the victim, I'm going to say, side of things around power and influence and leadership, do you say, oh, that makes me a good person? I'm kind. I don't push things on people. I never make people do things they don't want to do. And what opinions you have about what that means about who you are. And you might also look over on this side and see what judgments you have about these bad people that wield power freely and without apology. Now, some of it might be things you would never want to do the way they're doing it. It's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this reluctance to grab that sword of power and influence and wield it deftly. Lately, when I've been talking with my guidance about my purpose and I'm doing a little refresh with my guidance about what my purpose is. And the latest version, they keep telling me about working with these deal makers and power brokers and political leaders, and that my job is to teach leaders to wield power skillfully and faithfully. Faithfully being under the definition of holy power. Skillfully meaning they've welcomed back in these rejected parts of themselves such that they have a deep relationship with themselves and can be honorable with how they wield that sword of power. When you do that, the question about spirituality and money becomes a moot point. Not even a conversation anymore. There is money, there is spirituality, and more truth to be revealed. That all problems are just a fragmented expression of a whole, complete divine truth. And that fragmented expression, when we're up against it, just points the way to where something wants to emerge for you now. And so if there's something that wants to emerge around spirituality and money, around power and intimacy, around this relationship between victim and victimizer, even if it's not while we're here in this dialogue, I invite you just to tune into your own guidance, your own inner wisdom, and ask, what is there in this dialogue for me to look at? What is there in this dialogue for me to look at that has a gift waiting for me, if I could see it that way? And based on that, is there any support you need? Just asking, what support do I need? There might be an answer, there might not be. What support do I need? And lastly, based on that, is there something pulling me to do some work with Jeffrey on stage, if we're here live and in person in LA? Or are there questions that might be, they might be vulnerable for me to ask, but is there a question, even online, for me to type in, related to what's here, what am I meant to look at? And lastly, I know I already said lastly, but this isn't another question. This is just an invitation to know that you can ask for grace. You can ask to be held in grace and with grace around whatever this thing is. So often, when we're up against stuff, even stuff that we've buried for a while and we didn't even know we were up against, but man, maybe this dialogue stimulated it. It can feel like it's our job to get in there and fix it. It's our job to address it. It's our job to do it. And if there's anything I know, is that's just a game we play. That the real growth in spiritual leadership is to say, can I invite grace into this arena of my life? Even if I don't know how to address this, can I invite grace in? The grace that might have a healing balm, that might have a direction, that I might not even be aware of intellectually. and to just feel the presence of that grace descending on you and flowing through you. Beautiful. And taking a breath in. Good. So, you've got something, don't you? Yes. All right, well, let's bring the microphone up here. And actually, well, I'm going to bring you up here. With these lovely chairs. In fact, we're going to bring them up a little further forward. And I'm going to have you sit on this side because I'm used to sitting on that side. Great. So if you could just introduce yourself to everybody.
Good evening. My name is Sylvia Becker-Hill. I'm the founder of Überwoman International. And part of my mission is to support the next evolutionary phase of true partnership between men and women. And the puzzle piece in that is that I empower women. And it starts with myself, so I'm working through my essence, wounds, and my fears of not being safe. Mm-hmm. And I'm feeling a bit vulnerable right now with the camera and not knowing who is watching, because I got a download of one word when you were guiding us to talk about that with you here.
So before you say that one word, we have alarms going off. We have sirens in the background, right?
It fits.
I always think the universe is very clever that way, providing nice soundtracks and input. So before you say that word, I want to ask you, what parts of you need some safety?
I have from early childhood the experience that people don't understand me.
Uh-huh.
And interestingly, I'm from Germany, so I'm living now here in a foreign country.
Jawohl.
I'm not speaking my mother language.
Ich weiß.
And I have, my brain is a bit like yours. I connect things other people don't see as connected.
Yeah.
And for me, they feel completely naturally connected, and I'm irritated that others don't get it or don't understand me when I talk about it.
So at the top level, there's irritation. Underneath that, it stimulates a wound. Underneath that, it stimulates something tender.
It's loneliness.
Yeah,
I feel very lonely.
yeah, yeah. So I want to just to have you check in with your loneliness. And just ask your loneliness what it would need to feel safe in this moment.
That when you think I say something which is not understandable, that you ask me to say it again in different ways.
Yeah, I can do that. Good. Anything else?
That you officially say it's okay that I'm here sitting with naked feet because my shoes were so uncomfortable.
Well,
And-
it is only because you have gold, glittery toenail polish on. So absolutely.
Okay.
So that's an expression of that like younger self that wants to be welcomed. Right? She didn't need to say that. You didn't need to say that. Except that that part wanted to be involved too. And so interestingly enough, there's this relationship between the lonely and the mischievous, kind of fun, young girl quality. They're related, right? If we go back to this infinity symbol, they're really two sides of one coin. One's fun and playful and has glittery toenail polish on and says, "Is it okay that I don't have shoes on?" and waves the glittery toenail polish, right? And the other part says, it feels very lonely to feel misunderstood. But I want to play, but I feel very alone. I want to engage, but it feels lonely. They're related to one another. And if there's an integration point, I think that's being called forth, it's between these two voices. Do you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. So what was the word you got?
It's a word which merges money and spirituality, and the word is prostitution.
Say more.
There's a fear for spiritual called entrepreneurs that when they sell their services, because they are so identified with their calling, their service, their skills, that they prostitute themselves.
That they're selling themselves.
That they are selling themselves.
Right.
And in our culture here, prostitution is something seen as dirty and negative, and not as spiritual, which it was historically when it started.
Right.
Prostitution was the first most holy and most spiritual profession on this planet. Because every woman in Mesopotamia who worked as a prostitute was the personification of the divine mother goddess. And only the most wealthiest young men from the best families were allowed to bring the gold coins, the symbol of the moon, to the temple, so to pay for the learning service, so that the personification of the mother goddess taught them how to proper make love to a woman who was seen as a personification of the goddess.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. A lot there, right? And I understood it. I'm a very pragmatic guy. So I like to make things kind of basic and simple on some level. The reason I had to share that story, that when I started these events, which were really more about me channeling and just being here, right? Just having my essence here, that it wasn't about the very cool marketing strategies I've built and the way I can help people answer their call. It wasn't about any of that, right? Like, it's been hard to even figure out how to market these things because I know very little about them before I'm here. And that's why they said, Jeffrey, you've got to get comfortable having people pay to be in your presence.
You have to be willing to be a prostitute.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. To have your essence, not all the things you manufacture, your being, be what's most valuable. They're giving me the image of Oprah right now. There's been a ton of talk show hosts in the world, all around the world. Why is she different? There's something about her essence that flows through everything she does. For some reason, she's been able and willing to share it in the world and be rewarded in a massive way for it. Now, yes, does she also have her design dialed in? Yeah, she does. She really knows what she's good at and what she's not good at, right? Is she clear about her calling? Yeah. And the more she's answered it, the bigger her empire has grown. Is she clear about her business model? That's grown as well, moving from a talk show to a whole network, right? And yeah, it was shaky there for a while, right? But that's somebody that, if you put it under that definition, is prostituting herself in the greatest way possible, right?
And so it is.
Yeah. Now, where it gets funky, where it's like, am I selling myself? The truth is, yes. At the highest level, you are. In fact, you're doing that more than you're selling anything else. Even if they're saying, like, good Lord, even if what you're making is a manufactured good. Like, I just put in my reservation. Well, I didn't just. I was in line in the morning when they allowed us to reserve the new Tesla, right? So I'm on that list, somewhere in the first 100,000, I think. Elon Musk's essence is in that brand. It's in that vehicle, right? The attention to detail, his genius, the way he thinks about things, the elegance in which he sees this universe, his essence is in that vehicle. Do you see the essence of somebody in a Chevy? No, right? Totally missing in most cars. Now, it was funny. I was actually just one street over on 3rd Street Promenade where there's a Tesla dealership the morning that we were allowed to put our $1,000 deposit down for this new car that no one had seen. They unveiled it that night, right? They had 180,000 people reserve the car before anybody had even seen the dumb thing. There was probably about 200 people ahead of me in line and maybe 200-300 people behind me in line on 3rd Street. It was like the new iPhone. Because like the iPhone, that also had somebody's essence in it. Had Steve Jobs' essence in it. Right? Nowhere in the history of in the automotive history has anybody ever lined up to put a deposit on a car they'd never seen. Right? And within 3 days, there was 325,000 people globally who had reserved one. This is for a car that will not even come off the line for about 2 years. We won't get it for a few years, right? I mean, it's mind-blowing. But that's essence at work in business. And under this definition of sharing what's most precious, most genius, most our divine spark being embodied in our business and in our goods, under that definition of prostitution, absolutely. We are selling ourselves. We're selling. Here's what they're saying. We're having an energetic exchange for our willingness to share that unique imprint that we are in the world. Right? Without hesitation, without reservation, without controlling it and dampening it down. Just like the orange tree and the avocado tree, right? That unique expression, that DNA in this tree versus that one that produces this kind of fruit versus that kind of fruit, that we bring it to market and we have an exchange for the essence of it, for the nutrients of it. Not just because it's interesting to look at, right? Because it has nutrients to share with us. And so that's conceptual. Let's get personal. So when you say, I really am meant to share myself with this world, do you hesitate? Do you manipulate it? Do you control it? Do you damp it down? Do you get scared of it?
I shall say that now, here.
Yes.
It's the importance about the liberation of the female sexuality and what I've done in my life.
There you go. There you go. That's the work. So I'm going to challenge you here for a minute. So you come up and say, hello, my name is Sylvia Becker-Hill. I'm the founder of Uber Women International, and we are here to bring the feminine back in, and I do that myself, and I empower other women. Nowhere in there is there anything either covertly or overtly about sexuality. Covertly would be if it wasn't something to, like if it didn't work for your marketplace to come right out and say it. Because for some marketplaces it doesn't, right? You've got to be clear about how you're meant to engage with the marketplace when you say hello. So what's interesting is, let me give you an example. Then I want to see you do this. Okay. Covertly, if I don't say anything about sexuality, well, let me say, when it's not in the picture, Hi, I'm Sylvia Becker-Hill. I'm the founder of Uber Women International. We empower women globally. I'll just say that. No sexuality in there anywhere, is there? No juice, no fire, no, right? Now, if I were a tantrika, I could probably even do this better, but let's say I sit up here and say, hi, my name is Sylvia Becker-Hill. I'm the founder of Uber Women International. And we empower women globally to step into their leadership. It starts with you, and it starts with me. Have I just spoken sexuality? I just did.
Yes, you did.
I didn't say it, but I spoke it,
Yes.
right? So, for some of us, it's about embodiment. And it's about having it be in our presence, having it be in the energetic exchange where people go, whoa, there is something cooking over there. Right? And the women that need that to wake up, like, here's the language I'm getting, I love this. They say, the women that need to get their purr, right? The women that need to get their purr. Like, do you resonate a lot with like cats and lions and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because they're like,
Yes. Black Panther. Black Panther.
yeah, Black Panther, right?
Yes.
So they're saying you are meant to work with the women that need to get their purr. They need to find their that motor, right? I never thought that skill would come into my business. I learned it from my old cat. Right? But man, cats, when they have their purr, there's that motor.
I drive a BMW convertible. It makes the same sound.
Yeah, I drive a BMW as well, until my Tesla gets here. It has a purr, right? And when we're around something that has a purr, right? When we're by an automobile that has a, man, we can feel it. There's something kind of sexy about it,
It vibrates. Yes.
right? It vibrates, right? When we're around a person that has that inner, they're enticing, they're intoxicating, right? They grab your attention. That's what you're here to do. Woo! All right. So here's what this is about. Now, what this really is about is how you apologize for your purr. Look at how you're sitting right now. Who, me? I don't have any sexuality.
Yeah, I grew up Roman Catholic, so
Right.
I'm channeling the nun
Yes,
right now.
Yes. So take a breath. Take a breath. I want you to connect with that lion, that cat, that Black Panther energy. Uh-huh. Now, look into the camera and introduce yourself and what company you're a founder of as the Black Panther.
Hi. I'm Sylvia Becker-Hill, the founder of Uber Women International. And I teach women how to reactivate their strongest purr so that they can create their career, business, and life from the inside out.
Good. Good. How did that feel?
Naughty.
Good. Good.
Fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Less boring, less
Did it feel lonely?
no,
No. Did it feel like a little girl?
a tiny bit.
A little fun. She's
yeah,
there.
the naughtiness, yes.
Yeah. Good. So the place to look for you is about where you apologize for that.
I can see this everywhere throughout my whole life. From high school, where girlfriends left me telling me, oh, you are just too much. I was engaged 2 times before I found my soulmate and got married, and both fiancés said nearly with the similar words, left me because sorry, you are just too big. Beside you, I feel
Too much purr.
yeah. So I learned a lot of coping mechanisms to apologize for who I am and make myself smaller than I am.
Yeah.
And I'm working now since years with whatever modality and gurus and mentors and trainers to get all the lids off my head I had put on in order not to be too much, so that people don't constantly leave me because I'm too much, too powerful, powerful. I heard that a lot.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to suggest. So first of all, I really want to acknowledge you for being here and sharing this, because I think that this story resonates with a lot of people. And Dina, if there's people that are, if you're resonating with this and you want to type in something, we'll check in with Dina a little bit. Because there's so many different ways we apologize for who we are, right? And really, man, this journey of having who we are not be acknowledged and not be accepted and to feel like it does isolate us, to the level, to owning the parts that we ostracized and then coming back out into the world as a leader with it, that's the journey, you know? And what I know is that when people say you're too much or too powerful, what it translates into is there's aspects of your power that you don't own. And if you don't own them and you're not in a relationship with them, it feels scary to me. I'm speaking on behalf of everybody, human beings in front of you, right? It feels scary when we're in front. Can we all recognize and see that this is a very powerful woman? Yes? Yes. Powerful woman right here. No denying that. So there's only 2 ways to be. Try to hide it and apologize for it and shove it down, right? That's one way. That's what a lot of people in the world are doing because we don't know another way. Because it keeps freaking hurting to just bring it all out and have it be smacked down, right? So all I know how to do is try to... So that's one way. The second way is about finding the parts of you, especially the parts that wield power, that you don't have a beautiful, positive, healthy, vibrant relationship with, and start to build that relationship. Because when you really own your power, there is nothing that feels safer in the world than being around somebody that's massively powerful and it's deeply integrated. Man, we feel so safe. We feel so like anything that happens in the room, they're going to take care of it.
Something's coming up.
Yeah,
Tears.
there we go.
So most of my first half of my life, I trained my intellect, my brain. So I have 2 university degrees and read over 10,000 books, etc. Because I'm so scared to show my big heart.
Yeah.
And the part of the female archetype I'm not showing in public is the mother archetype,
Yeah.
and how much I love.
Yeah.
And I'm not showing that, I think, in my business.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, when that heart and your power is both online and expressed in your business, you know, that will just, it'll turn your business into a movement. It will turn your business into a movement.
I just changed this morning. I'm working on my webpage. the tagline had the word company in it, and I deleted the word company and changed it into movement.
There we go.
To movement this morning.
Yeah. So there's something emerging that you're ready for, right? So let me give you just a few pieces of homework. 'Cause I'm just, yeah. Let me give you just
Can
a few.
someone please write those down? Thank you.
And we can get them to you as well. And this is, I'm gonna make this homework for everybody, if you want it. So I'm gonna give you homework and then I'll genericize it or make it available to everybody. So the thing I want you to look at is, what are you hiding and what are you apologizing for as it relates to your power? And money is just an expression of power. So that could be, what are you apologizing for around making money, around having money, around using money to have big impact in the world? That's the power part. The big heart part, right? Is what are the soft, perhaps lonely, more wounded parts of yourself that want your love and attention? Such that if they were welcomed and integrated, more of your heart, more of your heart, more of your heart, more of your heart. Because the leaders, I believe, of the new world are leaders with wide open hearts and strong spines, right? Powerful and filled with love. Man, talk about like leaders we want to follow, leaders we trust, leaders that can change the world. Strong spine, open heart, right? And so this piece of you going, oh, okay, the third piece is, what do you know you're meant to be talking about that you've been shying away from because you're scared of what would happen if you did? That's another power expression. Because wherever that is, that's where the money lies. I'm not going to come to you to learn how to be an empowered woman, quote unquote. But if I were a woman without a purr, and again, I don't know if we're going to put that in your copy on your website, right? I help women get their purr back. But the quality of that sentiment, if I saw that and you owned it, I would absolutely come to you for that. Yes? Yeah. No question. Right? That's it. So wherever this thing is that you're shying away from saying and bringing to the world, oftentimes is where your greatest money making lies, because it's where your greatest level of attraction lives. Right? For me, I had to recognize that the thing people really want most deeply from me is this conversation around spirituality and business. It just is. And I can fight with that or argue with it all I want. But that's one of the conversations people want around me. The conversation people want around you is around power, but it's like this raw, vibrant, alive, pulsating, right? That's what they want from you. And the more that's into, here's the last piece. I always say that, and sometimes it is, but oftentimes it's not. I gotta find a new language for that. We don't trust it if it's not integrated. Then it's scary. It's like, are you gonna pounce? Are you gonna get me, right? If it's not integrated, it's scary. When it's integrated, it's attractive.
Got it.
Right? So your job here Here's one more piece of homework for you in particular. I want you to mine the beliefs you picked up through the Catholics and the Germans and everything else around sexuality, sexual power, women in power, selling yourself. I want you to examine that from the perspective of, okay, this is how it's coming.
Come on, say it.
Yeah. Well, from the perspective of is it true for me? But the place to ask that isn't your mind. The place to ask that is really like in your sexual organs. Like in that like if I take that belief and put it here, is it true for me?
Got it.
Got it?
Yeah, and I know where to start.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Good. Thank you. Awesome. Any final comments over there that need to be made, or?
It resonates. Did I mention it resonates?
It resonates. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. Let me just say a couple final things. First, I'll say a couple logistical things. I keep questioning my language tonight. Next month, on the third Thursday of the month, I'm going to be in North Carolina. So I don't know if we'll just skip a month or if we'll find a different day. I've got to figure that out. So keep your eyes tuned, and we'll figure something out, and we'll let you know when that is. So that's April, May. And then in June, we absolutely are back here on the third Thursday of the month. Do you know what date that is? Prudence will tell me. Yeah. So that's that piece. And then in July is going to be July 21, and my birthday is July 20. So we're going to have a birthday event here in the July one. June 16, July 21. Those ones you can lock in now. And then for next month, I'll figure out what we're doing. So that's that piece. The second piece is I would love for you to share how this landed for you, what you learned. So either send an email in to me. I'd love to just hear from you. You can send an email to support@jeffreyvandyke.com. That's JEFFREYVANDYK.com. There's no E at the end of my last name. Support@jeffreyvandyke.com. You could also just go to my Facebook page and post. You can just go to facebook.com/JeffreyVanDyke and just post about your experience and maybe what your aha was, or your learning, or your questions. So I'd love to just hear how this is. The other thing that I'd love to hear from you on, either on Facebook or at support@jeffreyvandyke.com, is what do you want me to address in this forum? This really is a forum where this is my give back to the community, to the world. It's low cost here in LA, and it's free on the global live stream. So this is for you. This is for you. So I'd love to hear, in this context of spirituality and business, and spirit and leadership, what are the conversations you want us to have? What are the topics you want us to address? So I would love for you to share that with me as well. Lastly, I know. I think this is the last one on this stuff. This is the last dance. Last dance. Right. I told you I was a musician. Yes. So if you want to have any support from me personally, there's a couple ways you can get that support. One is if you want support in your business to understand who you're really on earth to serve and how to shape and package your messaging and your positioning to serve those people, I have a program called Tribal Marketing that looks at your wounds as a training program for who you're under to serve and decodes the pattern of your wound to understand how to package and position your products and services in such a way that it will be most attractive to your ideal audience and teach you how to talk about what you do in a way that you can take that underlying thing you're supposed to be doing in the world, that roar, and put it into a statement that you can share with the world when they ask, what do you do? That resonates, that keeps that power, and that makes sense to the logical mind. So if you want support on that, should I send them to a website or just email them?
Tribalmarketing.biz.
You can go to tribalmarketing.biz, tribalmarketing.biz, and I do webinars each month or each week where I can share this with you. So go to tribalmarketing.biz. You'll be able to sign up there and go to a webinar where I'll share more about this this concept with you. And lastly, oh my God, I gotta stop it. I do select private one-on-one work with people. And this is really when you're like really ready to burst to the next level of your calling, your leadership. And you know you need some support internally, and you know you need that to translate into something that's effective and vibrant and powerful and money-making in the world as a business. And so if you're in that place, if you're here live, you can just talk to me after we're done. If you're online, you can just send an email to support@jeffreyvandyke.com and say, hey, share with me a little bit more about Jeffrey's VIP work, and we'll get back to you from there. Okay, that's all of that. Now I have like, I went to a Lutheran college, and I'm like, the Lord bless you and keep you, the benediction, right? Because this kind of is like business church here. Here's what I want for you. I want for you to not be afraid of power and money. That if everything in this world is holy, power is holy, and money is holy too. How we work with it, how we wield it, well, that's a growing edge for so many of us. But so long as we stay only over here, nope, can't touch that. Those bad people, nope, we're the good, kind people. So long as we do that, as spiritual people called to have an impact on the world, as spiritual people with a calling to step out into the world, we'll never really be able to do it. Right? It's like, hide it under a bushel. No, man, I'm just cheeky tonight. We'll never be able to do it. It requires us to find the other side, right? To find what's right and valuable and holy about what we've been demonizing around money and around power and around leadership. The more we do that, the more the full expression of soft, beautiful, vibrant heart with that strong spine and powerful leadership comes together. That is our call. So with that, be blessed. Thank you all so much. Mwah. Thank you, live streamers. It's great having you with us. And we'll talk to you all real soon. Take care, everybody. Many blessings.